May 19th, 2023. This is S&P 500 2000 tick chart, E-Futures Mini on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. You can go down to the descriptions below to see where I think I saw setups as well as where I took my trades. So you don't have to watch the whole video. Everything is timestamped. This is what the chart looked like today. For the most part, it looked like everything stayed within two large trading ranges, a higher one and a lower one. Now, inside this large trading range, I drew from the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. But actually, for the first, I would say, hour and a half to almost 2 hours, prices kind of obeyed this trading range marked by this blue line. And the only piece of economic data that came out, well, actually, there was no economic data that came out. It was just Fed Chair Jerome Powell and then former Chair Ben Bernanke came out and started speaking around 8 a.m. Pacific Standard, which is about right here. As you can see, the markets were moving kind of sideways. Then when they started their press conference, prices started drifting down. Then it kind of created this intermediate trading range, and then it crashed further. And then pretty much for the last almost 4 hours, it just oscillated between this gigantic trading range marked up by yellow, or actually by orange. And I couldn't find too many, unfortunately, with all these moves, I didn't find too many setups, and I did take two trades. Unfortunately, they both lost. And what's frustrating is that they both lost by one tick. So my exit limit orders were all touched, but the prices never passed right through, so I never got filled. So I'm gonna go through the orders right now, or actually go through the trades right now. So you can see in the pre-market, prices were just kind of bouncing within this giant trading range made by the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. And this giant trading range is actually only 15 points from 42.27 to about 42.12. So it's only 15 points here. So when the markets opened, there was a continuation of the sell-off. And I did see a new low here. First entry short, second entry short, failure. Now, I just want to make a couple points. This is possibly a decent trade because the second entry short is forming technically or completed above the EMA. It's a decent signal bar. And it bounced off the midline, which is the midline of this gigantic or this bigger pre-market trading range. So it bounced off of this. So I thought there might have been a trade there, but I wasn't quite mentally prepared. It's kind of early in the day and I just wanted things to play out. So I wanted a higher low confirmation. And you get a higher low right here. And even though it bounced off the bottom of the EMA, it didn't quite touch, but it double bottom. When I saw this, I was hesitant because when I saw this, it technically makes it a higher low right here. But this is a terrible looking signal bar. Even though it bounced off, it didn't have enough power to even push past the halfway point of this candle. Then this bar showed up, and this is actually a pretty good one to take because it's a double bottom. It exceeded this bar by a couple of ticks, I think by 3 ticks, actually 2 ticks. So this one was probably worth taking, but I think I hesitated just that I thought it might hit the top here. I didn't have this blue line yet as the top of the trading range, so I just kind of let this one go. Turns out it would have worked really well. And so it kind of comes back down. Originally, I was thinking this is still the top of this critical trading range, but later I found out this is actually the more important one, this blue line here. And later you'll see this bottom blue line. There is no good setups here. You do have a new high here, first entry long. You have a second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar, so you wouldn't really know which way to go. On top of that, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, so you don't really know if it's going to move up or if it breaks out of this shortened trend channel. It should try to make another test of this low. So knowing you're kind of battling two different variables, so you don't know which one is the more dominant one. So I certainly didn't, so I just left it alone. Prices continue moving up. It touches. So now I think I have a triple test potentially. So I kind of draw this blue line at this point. This blue line down here doesn't exist yet. The prices continue down. It bounces the first time. So I'm thinking there might be some kind of trading range within a trading range. And this is where I take my first trade. So I see a new high here, first entry long, comes down. Right, this candle here makes a second entry long. Now I also saw a new low here, first entry short, and now it's potentially making a second entry short. Now if the second entry short completes, then it also makes a failed second entry long. So I've got my order ready because I'm thinking, okay, well, it could go one way or the other. I'm a little too late now for the second entry long because it's already started the second entry long, and most likely you would have gotten your scalp right here. And I'm thinking maybe there's going to be a failed second entry long and potentially a second entry short. So when this candle flashed down, I actually entered well before this candle completed, and at the last moment it came back up, filled me, and it actually closed up here. That made me a little nervous, but I thought, okay, well, this candle here, this red one, is also rejection off the EMA. And so right now I'm still live because my exit is up here. And then here's where I get stopped out. So unfortunately, when this one flashed down, if it had just gone one more tick, I think I would have got my order filled because I was only going after 1 point. Then it chops around. So that's my first trade of the day. It's also a red trade. It goes into this shortened trend channel. I have 1 touch, 2 touch, and then I have better confirmation at the top as well. But it's these really, really tiny bars, and it's pushing to the top. It's also pushing potentially to the top of this pre-market trading range. It gets to the top, it doesn't break through. It gives me confidence that this blue line is the top of this sub or overlapping trading range. Comes back down. It bounces off this midline. Now this midline is still part of this larger orange trading range, this midline here, but I didn't see a setup to try to capitalize on that trade. This is potentially going to create a second entry long. Creates a second entry long here, but this is a bad signal bar. Also, this trigger bar isn't very good. And it continues back lower. And when it touches this third time, then I'm pretty confident I have this sub-overlapping or this smaller trading range within this bigger yellow one. Prices continue moving up, and now I'm kind of sitting on my hands because it's 7:51 Pacific Standard. I know at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard, Jerome Powell and former Fed Chair Bernanke are going to start speaking, and they could cause the market to move by adding color, especially what Jerome Powell might say could spook the market. So I'm just a little more cautious. I know it could, whipsaw during any of his comments because it has in the past. First entry short, I see a second entry short. Now, second entry short, I thought, okay, there's a good signal bar. It's above the EMA though, but the EMA might not matter if I'm in this trading range, this blue line. However, it hasn't made a touch to the top yet, and all the previous price action has moved from the bottom to the top, back to the bottom, back to the top, back to the bottom. So here I'm expecting it to move back to the top. So even though this is a second entry short, I'm cautious. On top of that, they're starting to speak. So if I were to take a short right here, I'd be kind of taking a big, well, not a big risk, but kind of a gamble trade. But it turns out if I did take it, I probably would have gotten filled and I would have gotten my scalp. But I don't know that at the time because it could easily have just gone up to the top as well. Bounces again. This time it breaks through. So I do see a new high here, first entry long. I'm thinking there could be a potential second entry long on top of a failed breakout of this trading range formed by these two blue lines. So I actually get my order ready because I'm anticipating a failed breakout, but this is still when they're talking. I wait for this candle to close. I'm feeling a little more confident price is going to move back in. So I enter. I haven't entered yet, but I'm getting ready to enter. I'm waiting for this candle, and this candle still breaks up higher. So I see a first entry long, second entry long, potential fail breakout. I enter on this candle. So when this one closed, I thought, okay, maybe it's going to move up. I enter on one tick above this original signal bar. But then when it flashes down, I'm getting pretty nervous because my exit is just one tick below this green candle. Lo and behold, I get stopped out right there, one tick below. You can probably see where this purple arrow is. That's where my exit is marked by NinjaTrader. And so that's my second loss and second trade of the day. And one thing I was thinking that it would potentially bounce back up is also there was a measured move from this one down to here and a second measured move on this one down to here. So when it created this big candle and it looked like it didn't have enough power to come back down, that's why I thought this second entry long was probably going to also be a failed breakout. That's why I took the trade and entered right here on the original signal bar. Fortunately, I was wrong. I didn't read the chart and context correctly, so I got stopped out. So after two losing trades in a row, I kind of told myself I shouldn't take any more trades because today probably just wasn't my day. Things were looking pretty choppy. A lot of the price action seemed to be a little confusing. Well, I wouldn't say confusing per se, but it was, you had to be very, very, I guess, precise. You had to be very on top of your game, and I don't think I was there today. So I just kind of sat on my hands, but I did mark out the trades that I saw. And I saw a new low, first entry short, second entry short, makes a double bottom. This bar engulfed this bar. So this is a pretty decent signal bar. It's the first break of this shortened trend channel, which is this guy right here. So it breaks. It's coming back in. I'm expecting it to test this new low. So if I were to take this trade, I would have put my entry one tick below this big bearish red candle. Looks like it would have gotten filled here. And then for here, I definitely would have gotten my scalp. But unfortunately, I didn't take that trade. I just didn't take any more trades for the rest of the day. Prices continue chopping down, bounces. Now it's breaking out a second time. Breaks up to the top, kind of jumps around, comes back, touches. So I draw this bottom line and I drew a top line here thinking this is probably in its own little sub channel. It still has a failed breakout, comes back in, but it could be a failed breakout pullback. In other words, it could break out, come back, and then continue going down originally where it was intending to go. I thought there's one big leg here all the way down. I'm thinking there could be a second leg. So I did see this new low here, first entry short, comes all the way down. It doesn't break below this guy, so technically it didn't make a double bottom. It made a second entry short. Now this candle, although it's green, I thought there was a possible trade here because this is a decent signal bar. It's a triple test, and there's enough room to get to the midline of this potential trading range as well as to the bottom. So if I were to take a trade, I would have put it one tick below here. I would have gotten filled on this red candle. Probably would have given me a little bit of nervousness because it looks like it's trying to push above this, but this top of this trading range is holding. And for sure, I think I would have gotten my scalp on this big red candle here. If not, for sure, this one. Price continued chopping, goes back, tests the bottom. So you have a triple test down here. You could say this is a new low, first entry long. There's potentially a second entry long. But right now, the context seems to be bearish because it was a trading range, went bearish, and then now it's another trading range. And it's too soon to anticipate a failed breakout because it didn't really close outside. So here I would still be a little nervous, be first entry long, still a potential second entry long. As soon as it breaks above here, it'd be a second entry long. It breaks above and it flashes down, but this candle is like inside this bigger one. So it felt risky as I watched this in real time. Then it continues breaking down. So it would have been a first entry long, second entry long failure, but it was kind of not a very clean, not a very clear setup. Prices continue moving down. I draw the shortened trend channel. It obeys and kind of stays within. And it goes down. Then from here, about 8:30 till about the rest of the day, it stayed within this big orange trading range, and prices just really slowed down. I do see a bunch of setups, first entry shorts right here, second entry short, and it comes up. And you get a new high here, first entry long. That's all you get. Prices continue moving up. I draw the shortened trend channel going up because this orange one isn't established yet, but this trend channel going up is. Breaks out. It breaks outside and tests and makes a new high. So I do see a new high here, first entry long, and I'm thinking there's a potential second entry long right here. It does show up because it's the first break of this shortened trend channel, so it made one push up. And if this one next candle breaks above, then it could potentially try to test the highs here. It does. So after seeing this, if I wanted to take a trade, and it is potentially at the top of the trading range, but this isn't confirmed yet. I do suspect there might be resistance here. I probably would have put my entry one tick above this original signal bar. Looks like I would have gotten filled, and I probably would have gotten stopped out too, because I would have had my stop likely below this candle. So this is a trap. It was a new high, first entry long, made the second push up. And when I saw this and I put it right here, I would have gotten filled here, and my exit would have been, my stop loss would have been one tick below here, and as you can see, it would have stopped me out. So that would have been a pretty crazy trade. On top of that, if it did stop you out, this one likely would have stopped me out. And then prices continue going down. It chops. I think I see a shortened trend channel here, but there's no clean setup, so it doesn't really matter. Prices move up. Now, this third confirmation, I do believe there's a trading range here. And originally I had the lower part of this guy a little bit higher. Then I cleaned it up later, but then prices continue shooting down. So it made like a test of the bottom. I see a second entry long here, new high, first entry long, second entry long. The second entry long is a double bottom with a good signal bar, which is this guy. because this one actually engulfs this red one because it actually made one tick lower. Because when this one came, first entry long, second entry long potentially, if you decide to sell thinking this is going to break down through, then you would have been trapped because it would have filled you right here, then immediately reversed, and then this candle would have, well, if you didn't have if you had a stop loss above this double top, you would have gotten stopped out. But you see a new clear leg, one push up, first entry long, second entry long. It's also the first break. It broke out and made an attempt to make a new low. It made a double bottom, but it couldn't quite do it. So this feels like it kind of would have been a risky trade, at least for my experience level. But I saw this move down. I saw a second entry long here, and I was thinking maybe this, because this came down very abruptly, and I was thinking, could there be a potential, I guess, symmetrical move? Because this came off of no real news. And lo and behold, it kind of does create a symmetrical move. You do have a new low here, first entry short. They finally get a second entry short, but it's already, to go short feels risky because you haven't really touched the top and you broke through the midline. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it did break out. And so you'd expect to test this high. So you certainly wouldn't want to take a short here. Comes up and it does test the new high. And not only does that test the new high, it goes all the way to the top. Then for the next hour or 2 hours, I don't see any very good, clean second entries because this new high, first entry long, second entry long, it's a bad signal bar. Comes down, you could say there's a new low. Technically, it's lower than this one. So it'd be a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, again, not the best signal bar. Prices continue chopping down. You could argue there's second entries here, but I didn't see any good clean setups. So prices continue moving down, make a new low. So now you're pretty confirmed. You're within this trading range now. Now, whether this is actually slightly higher or lower, it doesn't really seem to matter. I kind of brought it down because I liked having the test here, and kind of here with a slight overshoot. The same thing down here. You could have put it all the way down here, but I thought it would fit a little bit better here with the confirmations touching. Prices continue moving up and down. And you have a new low here, first entry short, comes all the way down here, comes up. Technically, you make your second entry short here, but I didn't see any good kind of clean setup, but I did see one measured move up, potentially a second measured move up. And I do see a visual second entry long. In other words, made a new high, comes down first entry long, comes back second entry long. It's a pretty good signal bar, except the problem was it felt a little aggressive because it is an inside bar. This entire candle, although it reversed most of the move, it's still sitting within this big red candle. And even though it made a third confirmation of this support, it felt a little bit aggressive, a little bit risky, even though it did close above the EMA. And you'd have to trust that this is a big visual new high, first entry long, second entry long, because you only see this at the time. So yes, I think there's a trade there, but I didn't feel like it was safe enough for me. Prices continue moving up, chops around, and it kind of just goes into the close with these very small moves. You could double top. You could say a first entry long, potentially a second entry long here because it confirms. This is like a fourth touch. So you would have put your entry right here. You would have gotten filled and most likely gotten stopped out. So if I had taken this trade, I probably would have been frustrated. And it continues to go. And then now it looks like it's making a triple top here. But I don't see a good setup because you could say there's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short right here. And it looks like it comes back down. So it's hard to really trust this. Plus the candles are really tiny at this point. Then breaks up, and then it just kind of goes into the close. So that's how I saw the chart today. It was a little, there's a lot of nuances today that were pretty, I didn't catch them. It took a little bit of a little bit more insight in looking at a lot of these trades. And I took 2 trades, lost them both. I'm kind of happy I didn't trade further or take any more trades because, as I said, there are a few setups that I thought I probably would have taken and I would have gotten stopped out. So it's a pretty interesting day. So hopefully that was helpful.